of life, right? Two cells come together into 4, 8, 32, 64, and so on. Approximately 9 months, we have a beautiful baby. That baby has everything in it, all of the potential, the wisdom of the universe, to not only create it, but to constantly recreate. Every day, every second, you're not, lungs are, we call today's generation, not Generation X, Z. From pregnancy, this beautiful world, turns it into what? A 9-month disease process. So it starts right from the stick turns color, and mom gets excited, and all of a sudden the litany of interventions comes by. So then when the birth comes, and from that day forward, they want to enroll you as a full-time administrator of Generation RX. One thing after the next. And as a result, kids are getting sicker. In fact, in history.
Yes. Of last 10 to 20. And those are last year's statistics. They're learning to say ear infection, diet, sicker and sicker as every sicker. They will realize pediatrician.
Give him this.
Of kids qualify for the military because of health are desperately looking better and don't know where to go. They don't know. Not well. At this point, You know, you might know moms like this, I know it's not you, that will spend more time deliberating and considering what type of nail polish to put on their fingernails than what they're injecting into their babies and what food they're feeding them. There's many dads that you may know that may spend more time researching what type of flat screen TV they want to put in their man cave instead of what they're injecting into their children and how they're raising their kids. So we have to be proactive, we have to stand up and protect our kids and educate ourselves and research to make the best decision for our kids because God created them and they're worth it. Don't we want to give them every advantage in health, wellness, and life? We're getting the power turned on not only in the microphones but in our kids.
So the question is,
Was it always this way? Did our kids always have all of this wrong with them? Did we have these staggering statistics?
the answer is no. And it was not long ago. Either it wasn't too long ago or I'm getting old. But if we jump back in the DeLorean and go back to the 1980s and look around a classroom of students, and you took your typical class, and you look around, were there any kids with the conditions that we see so commonly today? Did we have the neurodevelopmental disorders? Did we have autism, ADHD? Did we have the autoimmune conditions, asthma, allergies, or the mental health issues with anxiety and depression that we see so prevalent in today's classroom? If we look around that 1980s classroom, there weren't any of that. There was nobody. Maybe there was one kid who had an emergency inhaler. That was it. The nurse's office back in that school, that was a really cushy job. It was always one of my friends' moms. And, you know, the only time you visited there is if you forgot to study for your math test. But normally, it was a great place to be. Well, let's think what school is like today. If we get back to today's classroom, what do we see as we look around? Stu just went over the stats. 70% or more of our kids have chronic conditions, debilitating conditions. When they go to the nurse's office, it's not because they had a tummy ache and wanted to get out of a test or a little nervousness. It's like a triage center. Who's been into a school nurse's office lately? It's scary. And if she isn't right on her game, there could be devastating consequences. She has binders of information on the kids, laminated, who gets what their schedule is. You have to go into it, it's like a prison. There's lock boxes upon lock boxes of all of the medications. When this one gets their emergency medication, when they get their inhaler. You have to have glucagon pens around. You have the EpiPens around. You have a defibrillator right outside her door. That is not how our students should be living. This is not what God intended, and this should not be the history of what we have for our children. We can and need to reverse this trend and create and raise the healthiest children. We know God's design is perfect. And true health comes from within. It's within all of us. We always have that potential.
Yes, God created our kids to be healthy. They were designed to heal. They were programmed to heal. They want to heal. So why are so many kids sick? Who's responsible for that sick child that has autism, that has allergies, that has all the other conditions we mentioned already? Who's responsible? Is it the pharmaceutical company? Is it the media? Is it the parents? Many people would think it's the parents, but the parents are making the best decisions they have with the information at the time. Who's the person they look up to the most and trust the most about their kids' health? The pediatrician. 99% of the pediatricians will inject 95% of the newborn babies within hours of birth with the hepatitis B vaccine. We're going to dive deep into why our kids are chronically ill. And some of you may be very surprised.
So let's start talking about the 5 pillars of health. What we really need to do to create that healthy child, especially growing up today in what we have is a very toxic world. As we look around, and we'll start to explore that, we are covered in toxicity pretty much minute by minute. So we need to do all we can as parents to make sure that what we're putting in our child is helping them, and our families and ourselves for that matter, is helping us to be as healthy as possible all the time. Of course, we're going to talk about a clear nervous system, what that means and how that impacts your immune system, about truly restful sleep and how important that is. And my husband will tell you that's a big thing in our house, because as mom of the household, who can agree that you seem to never get enough sleep? So making sure, it's like if you're in an airplane and they say, in case of emergency, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Moms, I'm really talking to you because I'm a mom of 3, is we need to take care of ourselves for this too so that we can be there for them. But getting and making sure our kids and ourselves are getting enough and restful sleep certainly is important. A positive mindset and really sitting, and this is starting right from the dinner table on up, is creating that in our kids and allowing and empowering them to always know that there is a way to have gratitude every day, to have thankfulness, and to reduce our stress naturally. Having organic choices, let's talk about that and some of these others, including exercise, movement, meditation, all these things that we can be doing to create health within our children. And let me tell you, most of this stuff is free. God put it here on the earth for us, like the beautiful sunlight that creates the vitamin D and raises our immune system. So we need to take advantage of everything that we can to create health. So one of the first things that we want to do is think about making sure that we have a properly functioning spine and nervous system. Why is this important? Because your spine and nervous system, we watched the video, right, of the sperm and the egg and coming together. The first thing that's formed is the notochord. That becomes the spinal cord. The brain and the spinal cord are the first things to form. That was by design. That's God's design because that's the most important thing in our body and controls every other cell and mechanism within us and every other system. So if we have interference between our brain, our spinal cord, our nerves, and our cells, then your respiratory system won't work right, your immune system, your cardiac system, no other system of the body. So making sure that we're getting our children checked by a pediatric chiropractor is really essential for health and wellness.
This is vital. We had a groundbreaking segment on the Doctor's TV show on chiropractic in newborns, which really made a big impact. And that's what we're sharing is the brain and nervous system controls every cell, tissue, and organ in your baby and your child's body. Your child's brain and nervous system directly controls their entire immune system, which is kind of important if they get sick or not. Your child's nervous system directly controls their biochemistry, their hormones, how their body heals, and how they respond to the environment. So you want to make sure you get 100% nerve impulses and nerve flow from your brain, down your spinal cord, out the nerves, to every part of the body so they would be functioning at 100%. So what would cause your child's nervous system not to work at 100%? Well, it's the 3 stresses: physical stress, mental stress, and chemical stress. Physical stress is easy to understand. Your child falls and maybe as a baby they fall off the changing table, they're sleeping wrong, they're accidents. But also in utero, there's stress. The uterus is one of the strongest muscles in the body, and those contractive forces can be quite harmful to the baby. If the baby's shoulder is rotated or head is rotated in utero, That's a time of rapid growth and development, so your baby can actually be born with postural distortions and misalignments. And then there's the actual birth process. When the baby's head crowns, the obstetrician is going to begin tractioning and torsioning the baby's neck to get it out. And the average birth is 20 pounds of torsion and traction on that newborn's neck to cause misalignments and interfere with the nervous system. So there's all types of physical and postural stresses that will cause interference in the nerves. But then there's mental stress. You know, you get upset and stressed out and overwhelmed. The muscles get tight and pull the bones out of place. And then there's chemical subluxations. You breathe in toxic air, you eat toxic food, it irritates the linings of the stomach or the lungs, and then it reflexes back to the spine and causes misalignments. So it's very important that every child be checked for misalignment, which we call vertebral subluxation. Because if there is any interference in that child's spine, it will cause a weakness and a vulnerability to all types of illnesses and problems. So many parents might have a little anxiety. You know, you're going to adjust my newborn baby's neck? Well, you should have anxiety not to adjust your newborn baby's neck and leave that nerve interference in their neck to compromise that baby's ability to be well for the rest of their lives. The adjustments are completely safe and scientific and loving, and our malpractice rates reflect that because it's completely safe to adjust babies onward.
So what else do we need to think about as we're creating this healthy child? Certainly the things that's been in the news lately the most, particularly through our friend Bobby Kennedy and the MAHA movement, is going to be what we're ingesting, what we're eating, and how that's affecting us. Having an organic diet and teaching your children the principles from the time they're little, getting them involved in the process, whether that's planting seeds, making little seedlings in your window and then having a garden outside, or bringing them to a farmer's market, bringing them to the grocery store, and teaching them where food comes from. Allowing them to take their shoes off, get their hands and feet in the dirt, and understand what it actually is, not just the final product, but actually where food comes from. What organic actually means, the levels of organic, because they can define it differently, and what it means to not eat that, and what we're actually ingesting. So really getting involved. We had gone to the farmer's market one day. I had stuff out on the kitchen table. I was like, oh man, this actually looks so amazing. So I took some pictures of it, and we're looking at the heirloom tomatoes and all the different root vegetables and the greens and everything that we want to eat, and making sure that those chickens, we had chickens. And so we would raise our chickens and had amazing eggs. And until the raccoon came one night. But that's another story. But they're amazing. And now we can get them from our patients, from our friends, from the local farmers market. There are quality things that we can get. We need to be willing to search for it. Join the co-ops, look at that. And let me tell you, when sometimes people misknowingly think like, well, it's so expensive if we want to eat that way. But I know that people in this room probably already know that if you dive deep and you look into it and you join co-ops and you find them, actually ordering food this way, getting food from farmers market and from farms can be the same or cheaper, less expensive than conventionally from a big box store or a grocery store. But the health benefits are so far superior. If you compare an egg, for example, and you crack one, the regular white eggs that you would get at your grocery store, and you crack it into a bowl, and then you take one of our chicken eggs and you crack it in, the color of the yolk, the white, how they're tight, they're just so entirely different, the taste, the flavor, everything about them, and certainly the nutrition. And so we want to make sure that we're consuming the best stuff. Contrast that to what we see, for example, if you walk into a 7-Eleven or a Wawa or a convenience store of any kind, or if you shop the inside aisles of a grocery store, and what do we see? They might package it as food, but is it really? It's a compilation of chemicals. A bag of Doritos, let's face it, is not food. Fruit Loops, there's nothing of value really in that for our bodies. In fact, we can contrast that and say there's so much that works against us. And feeding our children this, or starting out the day that way, or allowing them to have snacks throughout, is just harming them with all of the seed oils and the preservatives and the food colorings and everything that comes with it, and the lasting impacts that impacts on their bodies. It's devastating. Did you want to comment?
One of the most profound things that you can do is stop serving your kids dessert for breakfast and start serving them a nice whole protein, nutrient-dense food for breakfast. Giving them eggs and Greek yogurt, and even give them a hamburger or a piece of salmon left over from the night before for breakfast, and you'll see their grades will go up in school.
Absolutely. There's been so much research in that, and producing our kids that are sustaining themselves throughout the day, and really getting involved. And how many of us have seen that when we get them involved in that process of growing food, going to the farmer's market, and cooking, and enjoying that, how that impacts them to when they're outside of your home and they're at other people's homes, they're at maybe, I don't know, wherever, summer camp, they're at school. They're making good choices instead of making what we'd consider the conventional choice. They're doing the right thing for their bodies and for their future. So let's jump into a few of the other things that we want to discuss in creating that perfect child. Certainly, one of the most important things is how they enter into the world. So we have our pregnancy, and now we're all ready to give birth to this beautiful baby. And what do? Most people are going to the hospital, and they're poking you and prodding you, and they've got bright lights, and they've got everything that is completely opposite to the way we've always traditionally given birth. And so understanding, and this is going to be different in every state around the country as far as how your state regulations work with lay midwives and certified nurse midwives and birthing centers and home births, but just having the understanding that we as moms have options, and that looking into the option that's right for you is going to be so important. One that makes you comfortable, one that makes you feel secure, because when you have that, you're going to have the best, healthiest outcomes for your birth. That can include any of these things. Birthing centers, working with a doula, either during the birth and or after the birth, a postpartum doula, having a birthing center birth or a home birth. There are wonderful and beautiful options for all of us. Now, when we do, particularly when we go to the hospital or even a birthing center, and for your home, we want to have a birth plan, right? We want to really think about what are the things that we want to include and have included in our birth, or make sure don't have it happen during our birth. So take those extra steps, make sure that you're protecting yourself that way, and then that you have a spouse, a best friend, someone with you that's making sure that they are upholding those standards that you set for yourself so you can have that beautiful, amazing birth and great outcome.
Yeah. This is your birth. You should have the birth experience of your dreams, not be living in fear and making the choices that doctors in a hospital want you to do.
Yeah, and then, I guess maybe I went a little out of order because we were talking about our food and food choices, but this one right here, this is our first food choice, right? We want to make sure that all the babies in the world are breastfed, because that is what God intended. That's nature's perfect food. So for dads in the room particularly, we need to always understand and support the moms throughout this process, because breast is best. And having that is baby's first introduction to the mom's immune system to keep them strong and healthy. It's for bonding. It develops a higher IQ. Did you know that? Breastfed babies have on average 10-point higher IQ. We see lots in the news about Susan B. Komen and lowering cancer rates. Do you know what the number one thing, the easiest and best thing you can do to lower women's uterine and breast cancer rates is? Breastfeed your babies. If moms breastfeed on average of 2 years, doesn't even have to be consecutively with one baby, you can add them together. 2 years or more, our breast cancer and uterine cancer, ovarian cancer rates drop by 20%. Put that up against any other stats. That's amazing. This is what produces the best and healthiest baby. This is probably the number one most important thing that you can do and that we can encourage others and support them through is breastfeeding your baby and doing extended nursing with those babies for a litany of reasons that I know so much about this, I could take the whole hour doing that. But we want to really encourage that, and that is a beautiful and amazing thing, from eyesight development to their language skills. Everything about it is God's perfect design. And the milk, get this, on day one, is when we do carnation or instant powdered stuff, is that always the same or is that different each time? Do they know if that's a day-old baby or a 1-year-old baby? This isn't hard. This is not a trick question. Do we know? Right? It's always the same. Even the dads are shaking their heads. Yeah, no, that's always the same, right? It's like opening up a whatever jar of pickles. It's always going to be the same. So using powdered formula is always going to be the same. But mom's milk, do you know that at 6 a.m. it's a totally different composition than 6 p.m. And on day 1 is different than day 10, then day 100, then day 1,000. If mom makes it that long. 3.5 years, right? But that's good. That's okay. Because average worldwide is 4 years of nursing for kids. So we want to keep and continue that and make sure that we're providing them the best thing, because that's what God intended, the fat content to be different times of the day, to get that healthy hind milk for brain development. So there's so much goodness in it.
Yeah, the mom's nipple will actually sense the baby's saliva and change the composition of the milk for what that baby needs. If it's sensing it needs more antibodies, it will start producing it in the breast milk. So it's amazing. If you want to maximize your baby's health, they need to be breastfed exclusively for at least 6 months and then continue for several years, as a supplement. And one other thing I want to make clear also, we gave a lecture last year and I had one of the leading board-certified obstetricians in the world sitting in the front row, and I had him fact-check this, and we confirmed it, and it's true, that do you know that men cannot deliver babies, and they can't breastfeed babies either? So the American Academy of Pediatrics does promote chest feeding, so men can do that too, but I confirmed it can't be done.
And did you know that babies are so smart that within days of birth, they did a study and they could identify their mom through the smell. They can know inherently and have that bonding and attachment. So breast is definitely best. Let's talk about how we maximize kids' immune systems, because this is so important. Well, the number one thing we just stated and talked about was that initial immune system is brought through breast milk and through mom. So that's going to be so important. But how do we continue that throughout their lifetime, through these critical toddler years and beyond, and make sure that we're providing that naturally to them and maximizing it?
Okay, I have a question for all of you. Is the fever part of the problem or part of the cure? Raise your hand if you think it's part of the cure.
This is such a smart room.
Virtually all the hands go up. So I have a second question for you. When your child has a fever, how many of you have given them drugs to lower the fever? Raise your hand. Yep. So wherever I am in the world, 9 out of 10 people will say it's part of the cure. And then when I ask, do you give drugs to lower the fever? 9 out of 10 hands go up that they do give drugs to lower the fever. That's a big contradiction. This is ground zero. If you're more focused on being a medical mom or being a wellness or holistic mom, this is going to determine if you're one of the 75% of the kids that are going to be sick for the rest of their lives if you give drugs to lower the fever or not. One of the things I want you to know is that your baby, your child is smart. They're smart internally. They recognize that there's a virus present. So what does it do? It raises the temperature up. At a higher temperature environment, the bacteria and viruses can't survive. In fact, when the fever gets up to 102, your body produces a chemical called interferon, which is a virus killer. So the higher the fever, the more the body's trying to heal itself. So why would you ever give drugs to lower a fever? What happens to the virus if you give drugs to lower the fever? The virus stays in there, it lies dormant, it comes back, it mutates and causes more problems later. You see, the fever is part of the cure. The fever is healthy. Your body's healthier after the fever than it was before the fever. You just want to keep them hydrated, make sure there aren't any other complications. So some of you are sitting in the audience right now saying, well, what if it gets up to 105, 106? That's rare. You don't treat 99% of the fevers and destroy your children's immune systems because the 1% might have a febrile seizure. But do you know the medical literature says there's no negative sequelae? That means there's no bad outcome from febrile seizures. It might not look pleasant, but it's not harmful. So the fevers are healthy. We shouldn't fear the fever. We should celebrate the fever. In fact, most parents that have a child with a fever, the pediatrician doesn't need to treat the fever. They're treating parental distress because the mom and dad are more upset than the child is. So we want to let the fever run its course. It's going to build and strengthen the immune system. This is one of the most critical decisions that you can make as a parent. You know, how do your muscles get bigger? You push against resistance and the muscles grow. Well, how do your children's immune systems get stronger? They get exposed to everything in the environment, the dirt, the dust, the dander, the viruses. And then with a nervous system free of interference and good nutrition and love, they're going to be healthier and grow and mature and strengthen through the fever. So the fever is our friend, and we want to be able to support our children going through that process because it's a healthy process. In fact, I got 2 domain names many years ago, which I keep threatening to develop, which I haven't yet. One is don'tfearthefever.com, and the other is celebratetefever.com. So one of these days, we're going to be putting out public service announcements and the pediatricians are encouraging giving the drugs to lower the fever. So they're harming your children. And they're giving Tylenol to lower the fever. You know, the fever is helping the child detox. That's what it needs to do. So you're giving Tylenol, which lowers the fever, which is terrible, and then it also reduces the glutathione levels in the body, which is the body's natural detox mechanism. So, like I mentioned before, we can't beat ourselves up, feel guilty for the decisions we might have made in the past. We're all on the journey, and from now on, we're going to help our children be healthier by letting the fever run its course.
So as we talk about building that immune system, it's not that one thing, it's everything, right? So as we look at it womb to tomb and see full circle, the immune system is making sure that they're under a pediatric chiropractor's supervision, making sure that they're eating the right foods and consuming it, making sure that they're getting enough rest because that enhances your immunity, making sure that we're producing the right things in our home, in the food that we're feeding them, in all these different ways, so that we're enhancing it on a constant basis. Because those are all the things that really detail what it means to produce a healthy child, and the whole idea of parenting not out of fear, but out of faith, and having a wellness consciousness with everything we do. When we're looking at the water, the EMFs, the grounding, fluoride, circumcision. Like, there are a million different things that we could do. We could talk about stuff like this. We're drinking purified water out of plastic bottles. You're getting microplastics in your food. You know, looking around your home and going room by room and doing assessments of what are we doing with all the potions and lotions and creams and all the things that are going on them, from the soaps to the shampoo to the conditioner to the detergent you're using to the K-cup in your coffee to the... Everything can produce toxicity. We want to lower that as much as we can, because there are things that are in your control and there are things that are out of your control. We don't know what they're spraying in the air. We try to control things, but we got chemtrails, we got all this stuff all over, and 5G, but the things that we can do, we want to make sure we maximize the potential of your kids with that. So that leads us to things that we're putting inside our body. And we can control things like the medication that Dr. Stu was just talking about. We don't want to lower our glutathione levels. We want to maximize all of this. So we say no medication and no vaccination. So let's talk about that. Let's look at the increase that's happened in the United States, which, by the way, as we spend the most money on healthcare of any country in the world, and we give the most vaccines, what's our health outcome for our children? We give the most of that, and yet our kids are on the bottom of the scale. So what is happening to our children? When we look back to that 1980s class, and we fast forward to today, there's something that is occurring that's causing this. So let's take a look for a couple of minutes at the current vaccination schedule and educating, asking questions, questioning authority, questioning research. Was there really any research? What kind of research was that? Who did that? What they compare it against? Comparing a vaccine against a vaccine, that's not research. That's terrible science. That is not science. So science means that we're always asking questions. Science is never settled. So anytime they say, like Dr. Fauci, the science is settled. Okay, now we know, don't trust him a word past that. So let's talk about this a little more.
Yes, people are shocked that there's 72 vaccinations our kids need from birth to go all the way through school. Now, the pharmaceutical industry is multi-billion, multinational company, powerful marketing and legislative arms that have led our society to believe three things. One is vaccines are totally safe, they're totally effective, and everyone has to have them. All three of those are lies. Are you surprised the pharmaceutical company would lie to you? Right? Because if you get the COVID vaccine, you won't get COVID and you won't transmit it to anyone else. And after a year after we already knew this, President Biden is still at the State of the Union address telling everyone to get it to do the patriotic thing. So they'll lie and lie until the end. So vaccines are totally safe, they're totally effective, and everyone has to have them. They're not totally safe because our government has already paid out over $5 billion through the vaccine court to compensate families whose children have been damaged or injured or have died. Also, we know from the Vaccine Advanced Reporting System through VAERS that tens of thousands of children have side effects and deaths every year from the vaccines. And the kicker is the Harvard Pilgrim study has shown that approximately 1% of vaccine injuries and deaths are even reported. So it's astronomical, the cover-up and the number of actual deaths and injuries from the vaccines. But if you really want to look at the safety of a vaccine, when you're at the pediatrician's office, if anyone still goes there, and in the around every vaccine is called a package insert. And if you ask to see it, it will show hundreds of diseases that vaccine would cause. So they're not safe. But we just found out something interesting a couple of weeks ago. Anybody see Senator Ron Johnson's hearing on vaccines? They had the famed attorney Aaron Siri there, and they also had a Stanford pro-vaccination medical doctor there who was still saying that the vaccines are safe and they've been properly tested. In fact, there were 661 studies showing that vaccines are safe. Well, do you know the gold standard to check the safety of a drug or vaccine is you have the intended drug that's going to market, they're going to test on a population, and then they're going to test another group that has an inert or a placebo that doesn't have any biological agents in there. Then you can compare the number of signals and side effects and deaths from the two groups. Do you know that's never been done with childhood vaccine schedule? Out of the 661 studies that they cited that showed the vaccines were safe, not one of them used an inert placebo. They used another vaccine because they widened the definition of a placebo to really include other things. But one of the main factors in the placebo is they have an adjuvant like aluminum, which has inherently a whole list of side effects and injuries that can be caused, and there's other biological agents. So you're comparing the vaccine group to another group that got the aluminum and got other agents, but there aren't any differences because they produce injuries and they produce injuries, so it's safe. It's just as safe. So you've been lied to. There's never been a childhood vaccine that's been studied for safety, ever. And now it's in the congressional record. So they're not safe, and they're not effective because we see outbreaks all over the country in the vaccinated population. In fact, I remember one in Texas a number of years ago, an outbreak on a college campus of mumps. 100% of the college students that got the mumps were all vaccinated. So you don't see that in the stories. You just see the sensationalized headlines. So, and there's studies now, and my good friend, board-certified cardiologist, Dr. Jack Wolfson, has been sharing this. There's actually studies that show when you get measles and chickenpox as a child, because the benefits of strengthening the immune system, it protects you from cancer and heart disease as an adult. So you don't want to take away the chickenpox and measles in a healthy child is a fever and a rash for a week. And it builds the immune system, and you're good for life, and it has benefits. If you miss that, then you're compromised. So it's important. God didn't make any mistakes and forget to put 72 vaccines in your kids' bloodstreams. They wanted you to be able to develop that immune system. And they're not everyone has to have them, because you have exemptions. You have a religious exemption in most states, a medical exemption, a philosophical exemption. But the truth is, we shouldn't have any exemptions. You don't need to have any hoops to jump through and mandates to educate your child or to hold a job down. We shouldn't have any mandates. We didn't partner with the pharmaceutical company or with the government to raise our children. They should be free. And, I just heard this from a relative of mine in the spring, and I've heard this for over 30 years. How dare you not vaccinate your kids? You're going to put my vaccinated kids at risk. How selfish are you? Anybody hear that? Well, if you think your vaccines work and protect your kids, you have nothing to fear from my unvaccinated kids who aren't even carrying any of these diseases. And you ever notice they're only scared of the diseases that the vaccines can prevent and not the thousands of other ones out there? So they don't, it's almost impossible to get through to them, especially when it's family, right? So vaccines are not totally safe. They're not effective, and you don't have to get them. If you're in a state, just leave the state. You have to do what you can, because once your child gets vaccinated, they may never be the same again. Every child is injured from the vaccine. It's just a matter if they're symptomatic or not. So the last thing I'm going to share with you, because it's a big topic now, Many parents are thinking about delaying or spacing out the vaccines. And I can maybe detox from them. You can't detox from a vaccine injury. Maybe you can see marginal improvements. There's lots of people out there selling different things, saying you can detox. You really can't. It might be the only option you can try, but you can't get the aluminum out of the brain. And it's the most powerful neurotoxin on the planet, mercury, aluminum. It's very difficult to get it out of the tissues. But delaying or spacing out the vaccines gives you a false sense of security, because it could be the first vaccine given to any child at any time that could cause that child to regress or be killed. So, and if you're thinking about, I don't trust the CDC, I don't trust the pediatrician, I'm going to do my own schedule, well, then, why would you follow it at all? Why do you feel compelled to do anything? Because your body has the ability to develop naturally. Even in COVID, we've seen the studies like the Israeli study. Natural immunity was 27 times more robust and longer lasting than the COVID, without the turbo cancers, the blood clotting, and the myocarditis. Isn't that good? Rely on the body to heal itself and thrive the way God intended. So, and then we see about greening the vaccines. There'll never be a green vaccine. There'll never be a safe vaccine, because your child's supposed to get chickenpox and measles when they're little. And that's how you strengthen and mature. I mean, our grandparents used to have chickenpox parties and measles parties to bring them all together so they can all get it. And you might remember the famous episode of the Brady Bunch. Anybody love the Brady Bunch growing up? They had the episode with the measles, and the kids were like all excited. There's no better way to stay home from school for a week than get the measles, and it was nothing back then. But you listen to the propaganda, you listen to the fear, and it's time to break through and not be chained to that anymore.
Yes. Woohoo! So we do the research, we look into it. Maybe we have a child, a neighbor, a cousin who has a vaccine injury, and we decide, enough. I'm not going to listen to this anymore. I'm going to set my own course, and I don't want to vaccinate my child. I know every mom, I would say 100% universally, having given birth to 3 kids, that you have a brand new, less than 24-hour-old baby that's perfect. The last thing that you want to do is hand it over to a doctor to inject something into it, pretending it's not perfect, especially when that's a completely useless, toxic drug that's just going to harm them and won't even protect them. So everyone should have these questions. So when we make the decision and say, I'm not getting Hep B because my child's not a drug addict and not a prostitute, it's a day-old baby, and by 15 years from now, God forbid, they ever came up against anything, that would have worn off by then, so it's completely useless to anyone except for the big pharma company that produced it, for the money that they want to line in their pockets. That's the only one it's good for.
Does anyone want to see what a 21-year-old, fully unvaccinated, fully breastfed child looks like? Skylar, stand up. That's our son, Skylar.
Our son on. Woohoo!
Does he look healthy? Is he healthy? He's at fifth.
Yeah, you can come up on
He's
stage for a minute.
fifth quarter at Life University. He's going to be a chiropractor.
Woohoo! I did not tell him I didn't even know he was going to do this. But we were just talking about getting you on stage because we have a conference coming up. But is there anything that you would like to say 30 seconds to them? Oh, you can give your 1-minute pitch that you were just practicing.
Yeah, as you've already heard from them, the new generation of kids are sicker than ever. And it's not always the parents' fault, because the modern medical system is feeding them all false and bad information, and the parents are just relaying what they think is right to their kids. So you guys are here, you know what's right. So I challenge you to take this information and spread it to as many people as you can and get the word out so we can help the next generation and make them as healthy and powerful as they can be.
He'd be good. He's got to be a warrior out there.
I wish I was that articulate when I was 21 years old.
So if we decide not to do that, then what? The answer is everything we just talked about for the last 40 minutes. It's making sure that we're empowering our kids to make the right choices. And as parents, before they're old enough, we're helping them make those choices. We're doing that for them so that we can help them to grow a proper immune system. And within us, once we get empowered with that information, the fear disappears. So how do we do that as moms? Number one, we come to events like this. Thank God for Moms for Liberty. Woohoo, right? Thank goodness for moms who are standing up, who are giving tireless hours of time that they are, well, you know, they're racking in the big bucks, right, Alex? You get a lot of raking it in, Tina, everybody. No, we're doing this because we love our children, we care about the world, and we care about the next generation and the legacy. So thanks to all of you for coming, but thanks to them for making that happen. So how else are we doing this? Well, we as Mama Bears, we need to awaken that within us, and Papa Bears. And we need to make sure that we're standing up for our kids and that we're doing this unafraid, because that is what encourages and lights the candle for others. So one of the things that we did 20 years ago was founded Wellness Moms International, which now has transitioned into Moms for Healthier Kids, because we need to have healthy kids. We need to have meetings in our communities where we're all gathering together with like-minded individuals, whether that's an expecting mom, a mom with a child with health challenges, or that's been injured through the medical system, or a mom that's living the wellness lifestyle with her kids that wants to share more about that and form fellowship with others. So getting together at meetings. And Miss Alex, you can come up for a minute because she's helping me relaunch this to a whole new generation of moms and bring our meetings far and wide across the country and internationally to our chapters so that we can all get together to discuss all the topics that we're going over and continue to spread that.
So I have to tell you, I spend a good chunk of my day answering messages, Facebook messages. I live in New Jersey, in Bergen County, so Bergen County moms. Hey, does anybody know of a doctor that doesn't force vaccines? Hey, does anybody know of a holistic remedy for earaches? Hey, does anybody know? And it's question after question. And I absolutely love helping every single person, but I have to tell you, it takes a lot of my day. And I don't think it's fair that just the people that are in the know have this information, right? Just because we're in this world and we fight for our kids, we're the only people that have the contacts, right, or the resources to find out that information. My older daughter, she'll be 25 this year. She's vaccine injured from the HPV shot. And I did not have the kind of information that, I have now. I found it. It took me a long time to find it, to be able to detox her, and so that her left side of her body would move again and that she wouldn't have migraines. And I chose to, I kind of had the same kind of idea with my two younger kids. I was like, I'm going to go on a slow vaccine schedule, right? That's going to be better. And then, because I did feel that pressure, I did feel like, ultimately we want to trust people, right? Ultimately, we want to think people are good people. But unfortunately, Big Pharma is just about the money, and they don't care about our children. They just don't. like at all whatsoever, okay? I don't even want to sugarcoat it because there's no sugarcoating it. So we do want to bring wellness to every single town, every single community, and in a way where we can monthly, train you in a sense and teach you, hey, we have these great new doctors that just came into town. We have these great new chiropractors. Hey, have you tried this supplement that might help with that? I mean, I have hypothyroid. I can't tell you the amount of supplements I take. And it took me a really long time to learn it because we didn't have that right there in front of us. And now we have the opportunity to have that every single day, every week, every month, and have that community that's going to support us. So yes, I'm going to be helping out as well because I think that's so important. If you guys want to scan the code here, and even if it's not something that maybe you think, maybe you know somebody, maybe a friend, a sister, a brother, a neighbor, just share it because I'm going to tell you, I wish somebody had given me that information. I wish my daughter hadn't suffered for as long as she did because I didn't have the resources to help her faster. And no child should ever have to go through that. So please, share, join us. Find me, find the doctors. We're going to be all around today and tomorrow, and just talk to us. And we're more than happy to help you guys start your health journey.
Thanks. And
Thank you.
Wait, what was I just going to say?
If you're wanting to start a chapter, you can fill it out, but if you just want to find a chapter or be part of it, don't fill out the whole leader application part. Just you put down your information and we'll find you a chapter. It's all free. We have about 7 or 8 minutes left. We started late. I have one more quick question for you, because you all failed. 90% of you failed the fever question, so I'm going to give you another chance. How do you know you're healthy? You're healthy when you what? What's that? Feel good. Feel good, thank you. You're healthy when you feel good. Is that true? No. Okay, this is a good crowd. No, that's a lie. Because you can feel great and be very sick. Can you have a cavity in your tooth and feel great? Yeah, it doesn't cause pain until it progresses to a certain point. Can you have diabetes or high blood pressure and feel great? Yeah, there's no symptoms until it progresses to a certain point. So the symptoms are a sign down the road that something is going on. So if health is not how you feel, that's what the medical doctors think. They give you drugs to feel better. They numb you. So if health is not how you feel, then what is it? You see, in order to achieve health, we must know what it is. If we look up Dorland's medical dictionary, it says that health is a condition of optimum physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of symptoms or infirmities. So it's nothing to do with how you feel. It's your body functioning at optimum levels. I like the Webster's definition of health better. It's when you have a condition of wholeness in which your whole body's functioning at 100% all of the time. Doesn't it sound a little better than just feeling good while your body's deteriorating? To have your body working at 100% on all levels. That's what health is. And we go on all the shows to be able to share as much as our podcast show with all the leading health people in the world. And
yeah, it's exciting. And Alex and I are launching a new podcast too. So you guys are going to all find out about that. That's exciting. Doctor's TV show, Inside Edition came to our office twice. Fox News talking about MAHA movement, getting on RTL, Europe's largest network. We've been on several times, and again, talking about MAHA, talking about health for kids and families and how important that is, and with our other friends and colleagues, and standing out. When I said awaken that mama bear, make sure that I'm probably, I hope, preaching to the choir here a little bit, but don't be afraid. Step up, stand out, and make sure when they come knocking, you answer the door. When they say, we're going to limit your rights, we're going to take away your RE, we're going to shut you down. We're going to mandate things. It's up to us to rise up and get in front of the Capitol, meet with the legislators, get out there unafraid. Because you can't be afraid of the consequences of what'll happen when you speak out. We need to be afraid of the consequences that'll happen when we don't. We know that road. We've been down it. Now it's time to rise up. Join the movement. Become a part of more than what we are by ourselves. Because sometimes at home, you might feel like, I want to make this choice, but I'm not quite sure. I'm making a choice, but I'm afraid to tell my friend about it. I feel alone. But we know you are a part of something bigger. You are a part that is millions strong. If you want more, we have a slam bang finish in a minute, but if you want more information and you guys want to come up to New Jersey for another seminar, we have one coming up in just a couple of weeks. And we love Moms for Liberty, and if you use the code N4L, you get a 50% discount on registration, which is already extremely low. And we want it affordable for everyone to get health information from the leading experts out to the masses. So you can scan that code or find us afterwards and find out more about that. And we want to continue this process with you guys. This is the introduction, but we don't want you to go home with a smart notebook. We want to make sure that you're putting all of this into action and that you're finding the resources to dive deep. And so we want to introduce something that we created so that you can really take advantage of finding out more information about all of the topics we were talking about.
Yeah, we step back from full-time practice to bring this message to the world through the media and consulting and podcasts. But we have these programs available, turning the toxic home into the healthy home. You know, what do you wash your clothes in, wash your dishes? You know, purifiers, water, all of that. We have 4 modules of that. The super immunity for kids is our signature. Show you all the ways to boost your children's immune system. Then we have live open office hours. If you have family questions and need answers, you come on and we're with you. And we do a one-on-one with you today. So we have a 75% off if you scan that code. We're happy to work with you and make that available.
Perfect, and you can see us afterwards again about that as well, and to answer any questions, and we'd love to do the consultation with you guys too, and really dive into your family and any concerns that you have. Mm-hmm.
So we have something special right now. This is what I was going to share with you, I mentioned. This is a world premiere trailer of going to highlight the most important problem our country is facing with our chronically ill kids that's out of control. We are going to bring in a full feature documentary film in a very credible, professional way with an award-winning documentarian to be able to bring this to the entire world. And this is the world premiere of the trailer for this film that will come out in 2026. So enjoy.
And if there's a way maybe to drop the lights for 1 second, that would be amazing too.
I want you to fasten your seatbelt because the next few minutes are going to be jarring and shocking to you. We are facing the sickest generation of kids in the history of our country. This will be the first generation of kids that will not outlive their parents. Every childhood illness has skyrocketed in the last couple of decades without exception. Asthma's doubled, allergies are rampant. 1 in 31 kids are diagnosed with autism. Colic, reflux, 16 million ear infections every year, diabetes, obesity. Why are our kids getting sicker and sicker?
the stats you just went through are shocking, and it wasn't always this way. If we jump back in time just to the classroom, say of the 1980s, if you look around to that classroom of 25 or 30 students, you'd be hard-pressed to find one child, if any, with autism, with ADHD, with type 1 diabetes. And yet, if you look around that same classroom today, it's staggering. 70% plus of our children are facing these types of chronic, debilitating disorders. When we go to the school nurse's office, it's like a triage center. She has binders identifying all the different kids, what all the ailments are. We shouldn't be living this way. Our children shouldn't be living this way. It didn't used to be this way, and it doesn't have to be this way in the future. But we need to take action steps now to change that.
Our government and the pediatricians are not responsible for our kids' health. It's us as parents. We need to make better choices and be able to protect our children. We solved the children's chronic disease epidemic 30 years ago in our practice. We've helped over 10,000 patients, and less than 5%, even closer to zero, have a chronic illness because the child's body is designed to heal. It's created to heal. It wants to heal.
The time is now, because if I have to hear one more mom say, I woulda, shoulda, coulda, if someone had only told me. When I went to the doc in the white lab coat and I said, I have questions, my mother's intuition says that maybe I shouldn't do this, they were told, you have to. They were coerced. They were pressured. They felt that they had no other option because they were bullied and lied to and had devastating consequences as a result. This should never happen, and we can't let it happen again. And so we knew it's time to step out in a bigger way and on an even bigger stage. And that's why we're talking to you today about this important documentary.
We're going to expose all of the most common reasons why our children are sick, and we're going to provide the protocols and solutions and remedies to raise the healthiest children.
If this is a message that resonates with you, if you in some way have had your children, your grandchildren, you've been affected or you've witnessed this in your friends, in your family, in the media, and you've seen the devastation that's occurring in our country and in our world, then please join us. This isn't about helping to fund a documentary. This is about leaving a legacy, about being part of something bigger, about truly having an impact and allowing us to change the world for generations to come. And we can't think of anything more important than this message, than this mission that is impacting the health and future of our planet.
Was that awesome? The award-winning filmmaker that created this is sitting right here. Stand up, Chase. Say hi to everyone. So if this resonates with you and you want to see this around the world as a full feature documentary that's going to be amazing, it's going to be the signature watershed moment for raising healthy kids. Scan that code, help support us, be part of it. There's so many ways you can be involved, and come up and talk to us about it as well, because every child deserves every opportunity to be the best they can be in health, wellness, and life.
Whatever you can give is appreciated because we do this together. Films like this don't happen alone. They happen with the support of so many. This is a mission that we're all on in the same boat. We, as people who have been activists for so many years, we're 30 years into this, for standing up for parental rights, for faith, freedom, and family, for our children, and for our future. I gotta tell you, a little secret, you don't make the big bucks that way. As a thank you, you get canceled, you get censored, you get shut down, because we're up against the machine. But you know what? The two of us, we might get canceled, but all of us together, united, that's a force of strength that cannot be reckoned with. So when I say awaken the mama bear, awaken the papa bear, that is how we work together, and together we are going to change the world. We are going to leave a legacy that is better than from whence we came. We are going to be powerful, get to the top of the mountain together, and we will win. So we appreciate you all so much. Share the code with friends, with family, with benefactors that you might know, so that together we can make this happen. Get it out far and wide. That will impact bigger than anything else to the millions out there and to the masses. So thanks so much for being on this journey with us today and our journey at large. We appreciate and love you so much. And we will stay here afterwards if anybody has questions as well. But thanks again for everything, and let's change the world.